are conducted virtually by electronic means through WebEx Webinar, an online digital platform, and streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. Participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx Webinar, which is moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may watch it on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting via their computer, tablet, smartphone, or telephone and have the option of participating via video or audio only. All participants will automatically be muted upon entry when your item is called. Each participant will be unmuted by city staff, one person at a time. We ask that you also mute your devices until you are called upon to speak. Please only use one device at a time, as the use of additional devices can cause static noise which may interfere with the audio of this hearing. To ensure further audio clarity, we suggest that you do not use the speakerphone function of your telephones. Those participating by video appearance will be temporarily upgraded to panelist when your item is being held. During this time, your camera will be enabled. You will be only visible during your 5-minute allotted speaking time. At all other times, your video will be disabled and you will be reinstated as an attendee. Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with the written submission deadline. Members of the public and applicants are not allowed to use the share screen option or any other panelist controls during a video appearance. City staff will remove you from the panelist role if you fail to respect this instruction. For all those who are waiting online, please ensure that you have called in with the phone number that you were originally registered to speak with. If you call in with a different number, you will not be able to speak to the item. At this time, we'd like to make a very important land acknowledgement. We are participating in this public hearing today online and from the North York Civic Centre. We would like to begin this meeting with an acknowledgement that Indigenous communities have been part of this land and this area's history since time immemorial. We would like to acknowledge this land on which we reside and work with gratitude and respect. It is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and we are encouraged to reflect upon our commitments both collectively and individually in taking steps towards meaningful reconciliation with Indigenous communities. Now, in accordance with Section 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. My name is Nadini Sankar Peralta, and I'll be chairing today's meeting. Joining us on the panel are our astute members, Member Atarodi West, Member Paul Kidd, Member Giuseppe Bartolo, and Member Natasha Manning. And some very hardworking city staff are also present here with us, and that's Deputy Secretary Treasurer Simon Lamb, and some very hardworking planning staff, Sam Mozayani, Giovanna Rizzio, Irvin Bridgeraj, and in the background, Jenny Kotas. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning that applies to property, permission to extend and alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consent to sever property to create new lots. Anyone attending today who wants to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address, because the Committee of Adjustment and the Toronto Local Appeal Body, the TLAB, will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, you may be able to appeal this decision to the Toronto Local Appeal Body and, in some limited circumstances, the Ontario Land Tribunal. However, the provincial government recently amended the Planning Act and generally removed rights of third parties to appeal Committee of Adjustment decisions. As of November 28, 2022, only the applicant, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, specified persons and public bodies as those terms are defined in the Planning Act, are permitted to appeal decisions of the Committee of Adjustment. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. In terms of the hearing process, I will call each item in the order listed in the agenda. Where an application is uncontested, the applicant or the applicant or agent is given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will ask you to summarize your remarks when you are reaching the 5-minute mark without exception. When addressing the committee, please state your name, your address very clearly, and remember to confine your remarks to the matters described in the application only. The applicant or agent proceeds first and will make their presentation to the committee on the application. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. To ensure that revised applications are accurate, and also to all those who are entitled to notice of the application and that they are informed of these changes, the committee may decide to defer the application if it is especially substantially revised. Then individuals, either in support or opposition of the application, will be invited to speak. If more than one individual wishes to speak to this application, we ask that you try not to repeat the points already made by others. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation. When all speakers are finished, the applicant or agent has the opportunity to rebut, but only those issues that were raised by the previous speakers within a 5-minute time frame. This will mark the end of the discussion on the item. The application will then be taken into committee for a decision. Now, for this afternoon's session, let me first begin by asking members, do you have any conflicts of interest that you wish to declare for this PM session? I don't either, and there's none noted for the record. In terms of closing files, Deputy Secretary Treasurer, are there any files to close?
Madam Chair, through you, there are no files to close.
Okay, then let's move on, sir, to the deferral requests. I understand that there are 4 items to be deferred.
That's correct, Madam Chair.
Okay, go ahead.
Our first item is it 34? 34.
Okay, item
No.
number 34 is number 7 Raja Street. Okay,
I'm reading it in order of the list. I can read it in order of item. Perhaps that's easier.
okay, let's do that in order
Why
of
don't-
the list, sorry. Go ahead.
It's item 20.
Okay, so item 20, which is 1 Cold Stream. Committee members, if you can turn your attention to that. I'm just pulling up this information here. Okay, so this, committee members, is an application to construct a new 2-story addition with garage, porch, and existing dwelling. We've got there's someone to speak to this, and we've got the agent, Key Tan. Mr. Tan, are you there? If you can state your name and address for the records, please.
Through the chair, the owner has decided to defer the hearing as they want to.
Can you
For the
state your name
discussion.
and address for the records, please?
Yes, my name is Keith Tan. My address is 2152 Grosvenor Street in Oakville.
Okay, thank you so much. And if you can just tell us, Ms. Tan, why do you need this deferral?
Because the owners want to further discuss this within their family and with their neighbors.
Okay, so they want to gather further support for this application and
Right.
further transparency with the neighbors. Okay, I will ask committee members if they have any other questions. Committee members, do you have any questions before we move on to the first speaker just to talk to the deferral item? And we've got a Bruce and Charlotte Youngston. If you could state your name and address for our records.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Please keep only one device open, as I've stated in my earlier speech. We can't hear you very well. So if you could state your address as well and name for our records.
My name is Bruce Youngson. We have only one device on.
Okay, so there seems to be an issue with the echoing, but I have heard you. What we just wanted to ask, we're not asking you to speak to this application. It's just because there is a deferral request. Are you okay with the agents deferring the application so that they can consult with you further and others?
I guess we are.
That's okay? I just want an okay from you.
Okay.
Did we hear an okay? Yes, we did. All right. Thank you so much for that, sir. And the items will be recirculated, for which you would receive some advance notice of when to come back for this, should this deferral go through. All right. So, Ms. Keetan, we're back. And members, if you have no other questions, can I get a motion on this deferral? Motion from Member Kidd to defer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to put forward a motion to defer this application sine die to allow the applicant to further consider their application.
Thank you so much, Member Kidd. Seconded by Member Attarodi. All those in favor? Okay, unanimously approved. Ms. Keetan, your application has been deferred. Can we move on to the next one, sir?
Through you, Madam Chair, our next one is item number 31, 1600 Bayview.
Okay, item number 31, 1600 Bayview Avenue. Let me just pull this up here. Okay, and so we have this item. We've got someone to speak to this item, and that is, her name is Saba Al-Mathno. Saba Al-Mathno, are you there?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee members. My name is Saba Al-Mathno from QBS Architects. I am the agent.
And if you can state your address for our records, please.
1670 Bayview Avenue, Suite 401, Toronto, Ontario.
Okay, there's no one else here to speak to this application. Can you give us a reason as to why you wish for this to be deferred?
Yes, Madam Chair. The reason for deferral is because of the recent enactment of the Midtown Village Zoning Bylaw 595-2022 that came into effect while we were waiting for this hearing, and the zoning examiner did not have time to send us a revised notice. So we were advised by our the planner from the City of Toronto to ask for a deferral to give us time to get a revised notice just in case there will be some variances.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. Members, do you have any questions of Ms. Mathno? There being none, can I get a motion then for this deferral request? There's no one else to speak to it. Member Manning with a motion.
For you, Madam Chair, I think the reasons for the request for deferral are reasonable. Therefore, a motion to defer is a motion to accept the deferral request granted.
Okay, thank you so much. And it's sine die?
Sine die.
All right, perfect. And seconded by Member Attarodi. All those in favor? Okay, Ms. Mathno, your item has been deferred sine die. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Through you, Madam Chair, our next deferral is number 33282 Parkview Avenue.
Okay, item number 33 is 282 Parkview Avenue. And on here to speak to this is it 33? I said 32, but it's 33. Yeah, no, item number 33, sorry everyone, 282 Parkview Avenue. And the agent who's noted for this is Ali Tanha, and we have no one else to speak to this. Mr. Tanha, if you can come on the phone and state your name and address for our records, please.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and the committee members. Ali Tana from Ali Design, 3317 Yonge Street, Toronto.
Okay, perfect. And if you can state for us, why are you requesting a deferral?
This application originally was deferred due to Urban Forestry's comment that they needed more time to do some researching about the tree that they had issue with. Since we have submitted an arborist report to them, and we are in conversations with them. Unfortunately, we haven't gotten any results from our conversations yet.
Okay.
So my assumption is we need more time for them to get to some sort of result for this.
That sounds reasonable and understandable. There's no one else to speak to this. Members, if you have no other questions, can we get a motion on this deferral? Motion from Member Attarodi.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, I would like to put forward a motion to defer this application so that the applicant have enough time to resolve the problem with urban forestry. Sine die.
Okay, motion from Member Attarodi to defer sine die, seconded by Member Kidd. All those in favor? Okay, this motion carries and the application has been deferred. And
Through you, Madam
Thank you.
Chair, our final deferral for this afternoon is number 34-7 Raja Street.
okay, so item number 34, 7 Raja Street. Members, we've got a Frank Bellini. If you can come online and state your name and address for our records, please.
Yes, it's Frank Bellini here, the agent for the owner. 202A Oakdale Road, suite number 2.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much. And if you can state why you are requiring this deferral.
Well, okay. We want time to resolve some of the items put out forth by the planning department, but also there was an error made in the original notice that was sent out, and there's another notice sent out about a week later. So we just want time for the residents and everybody to be aware of the complete extent of the variances.
Okay, understood. There's no one else to speak to this. Members, you've heard what he said. If there is no other questions, can I get a motion on this deferral? Okay. Sorry, Member Attarodi with the motion.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, I would like to put forward a motion to defer this application. Sine die.
Okay. All right, not a
So
problem.
that the reason is that the applicant needs more time for the variance that they revise and also review the city staff report for further modification.
Thank you so much, Member Attarodi, seconded by Member Manning. All those in favor? So this item has been deferred sine die. Thank you so much. Okay, members, let's turn it then over now to item number 17, beginning in chronological order. We've got 22 Drysdale Crescent, Please note that this is a proposal to convert the rear yard detached garage to a garden suite. Members, there are two variances here. No one to speak to this application. There are 4 letters of support, and there is a staff report with general conditions. It's the July 6th staff report with approval following just a couple of some standard types of conditions. Do you need a presentation on this item? There being none, let me call out the agent. I was supposed to do that first. Sean Andrews, are you there? If you can come on and state your name and address.
Hi, my name is Sean Andrews, and I am the owner of the home at 22 Drysdale Crescent.
Okay, Mr. Andrews, is there anything that you'd like to share with committee members before they take this into committee for decision making?
I can, just give a brief synopsis.
Okay.
It's a existing garage that I'm looking to convert into a garden suite. It's, like I said, it's already existing, so it's already there. We just need to change the interior space. We're able to comply with all other zoning requirements in regards to height, landscape requirements, square footage, etc. We just have a odd property size, so it's hard to comply with all the setbacks while making it into like a livable space. And as mentioned, we have letters of support from our neighbors, most importantly, the neighbors at 20 Drysdale, who are closest to us. I just think it's a great option for the city to encourage affordable housing, as that's quite a problem right now.
Okay. Points well taken. Members, do you have any questions of Mr. Andrews at this time? There being none and no one else to speak to this, there are no other reports except the staff report that has that approval with specific conditions. Can I get a motion on this? Member Attarodi.
Yes, to you, Madam Chair, I would like to put forward a motion to approve this application with only one staff condition, that the development the property be developed substantially according with the site plan drawing submitted to the Committee of Adjustment, attachment number 1 to the report dated July 6 to 2023. That's it. That's my
Thank you,
motion.
Member Attarodi, for a motion to approve this application with those specific conditions, seconded by Member Bartolo. All those in favor? Okay, unanimously approved with those conditions. Thank you, sir. Let's move on to item number 18. Item number 18 is 45 Glenborough Park Crescent. Members, this is a proposal to construct a new single-family dwelling with integral garage. Members, this has 5 variances. There is a forestry a condition attached, and there are 7 letters of support. Please note that there is no one to speak to this application. I'd like to invite the agent Glenn Rubinoff to state his name and address for our records. Oh, sorry. That's Sia Sanjani. Yeah, my eyes were looking in a different direction, which really happens as you get much older, I've heard. So Sia Sanjani, if you can come in and state your name and address for the records, please.
That's totally fine. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Sia Zanjani from 15 Allstate Parkway in Markham, and I'm the architect and the agent for this application.
Thank you. Members, do you feel you require a presentation on this application? There being none, Mr. Sanjani, is there anything that you would like to share with the members before they take this into committee for decision making?
To be honest, just to respect the committee's time, I don't think we need to go through a full presentation, but if there's any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
All right, thank you. Members, if there are no other questions, can I get a motion, please? Motion from Member Bartolo.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, this is a pretty straightforward application, and I don't see any real adverse effects from it. Therefore, I'll put forward a motion to approve this application, subject to the conditions of the urban forestry memo attached.
Okay, thank you for that. Member Bartolo with a motion to approve with those conditions. Seconded by Member Manning. All those in favor? And your application has been unanimously approved with the conditions of forestry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Members, moving along to item number 19. We've got 19 Embro Drive, and this is where Mr. Glenn Rubinoff is there. Mr. Rubinoff, if you can come online and state your name and address for the record.
Glenn Rubinoff. Yes. Glenn Rubinoff, 18 Gloucester Lane, Toronto, Ontario.
Thank you so much. There's no one else to speak to this application. However, there are forestry conditions, 7 variances noted, and there was a staff report asking that we remove variance 5 or we refuse it. Are you making any modifications, Mr. Rubinoff, as we do this?
Yes, as per our discussions with city planning, we will be withdrawing variance number 5 from the variance list. So.
Okay, so we are removing variance number 5. Committee members to note that. Committee members, do you require a presentation? I'm just seeing here. It doesn't seem that they do. Mr. Rubinoff, do you have anything else that you'd like to say to committee members before they take this into, decision making?
No, I believe it's a pretty straightforward application. And with city planning having reviewed it and us having discussions, I believe it's in keeping with the redevelopment on the street and in the area.
Okay, thank you so much for that, members. If there's no other questions, Member Attarodi. Go ahead.
Yes, to you, Madam Chair. As you mentioned, it's a very straightforward application. I would like to put forward a motion to approve this application with one modification, that the variance number 5, which is the number of the story, is now eliminated and subjected to urban forestry. That's my motion.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Motion from Member Attarodi to approve this application subject to forestry and subject to the change made by the applicant here today of removal of variance number 5, seconded by Member Manning. All those in favor? Great, your application has been approved, Mr. Rubinoff, with those conditions.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Members, we have moved on to from item number 20 because that has been deferred. So let's look at item number 21, and that is 136 Douglas Avenue. So 136 Douglas Avenue is an application to construct a 2-story addition to the rear of an existing semi-detached dwelling. Please note, members, there is someone here. Well, let's just see here. The agent and the owners are registered, so there is no one else to speak to this. It's just the owners of the property. So I'm noticing that there is one variance, no one else to speak to this application. Let's call out Brendan Charters, who is the agent. Mr. Charters, if you can state your name and address for the record, please.
Suite 7 in Toronto.
I didn't catch that. Could you repeat that, please?
Can you hear me okay now?
Yes.
My name is Brendan Charters from Eurodale Design Build at 1189 Lawrence Avenue West, Suite 7 in Toronto.
Great. And I understood that Franklin and Susan Rubenstein are on the call, but they're the owners, right? So,
that is correct,
all
yes.
right. Great. So I'm just going to turn it over to committee members. There is just one variance. There's nothing else noted on file. Do you need a presentation? If not, can I'm just going to ask Mr. Charters, do you want to say any final things before they take this into committee for decision-making?
No, fairly standard application, 6 letters of neighbor support. I don't think anything out of the ordinary here. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. Member Manning with a motion.
Through you, Madam Chair, this is a very minor.
Oh, we've frozen. Can they hear me? Just when we were on a roll. Oh boy. Can Mr. Charters hear us as well still? Okay, let's see if members can come back on. We've just had a little bit of a technical difficulty. Yep.
Members, we're currently having some technical difficulties. I'm not sure if you can hear me right now.
Members, I'll ask you to come back. We had a bit of technical difficulties right in the middle of an amazing motion by Member Manning, I believe it was. And now we've lost Member Manning. We'll ask Member Manning, please come back. Yes, there she is. Lovely in white. All of you look quite chipper today. Thank you so much. You should see how the city staff looks behind cameras. I mean, it's a model show here. Okay, so starting with the Deputy Secretary Treasurer, trust me, he has a jacket for every day of the week. So let's get back. Are we on? Are we on? Yep, we're good. All right, so thank you so much. And Mr. Charters, I think you were there. Are you back, sir? Just want to make sure you're on the line. Brendan Charters?
Yes, I am, Madam Chair. Thank
Perfect, and you can hear us well?
I can hear you exquisitely.
Okay, so I try to project, I really try. So, Member Manning, you were in the middle of a very astute motion, I believe.
I made a motion to approve this
Okay.
very minor variance.
Okay, Member Manning with a motion to approve and seconded by Member Kidd. All those in favor? Okay, unanimously approved. Thank you so much, Mr. Charters. Your application has been approved without condition. Okay, members, let's move on
Thank you
then.
kindly.
Thank you. Let's move on to item number 22, which is 531 St. Clements Avenue. 531 St. Clements Avenue is an application proposal to construct a new two-story dwelling with a covered porch, rear covered deck, and a basement walkout. Members, we've got someone here to speak to this application, and let's bring back on for the afternoon session Mr. Tay Rook. Mr. Rook, are you there? State your name and address for our records, please.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee. My name is Tay Rook, planner for the owners of the property at 531 St. Clements Avenue.
Okay, perfect. And Mr. Rook, members, we've got 9 variances on this and 2 letters of objection. Mr. Rook, if you won't mind giving us a brief presentation on this, because we do have someone to speak to this application. Thank you.
Sure. Through you, Madam Chair. The variances before you are related to facilitate the construction of a new 2-story single detached dwelling. There are variances related to building length, depth, height of the entrance, landscaping, front stair encroachment, main wall heights to the front and rear, and also FSI. If you go to the presentation materials that if you look on the site plan, what you see is the existing dwelling that's been outlined in red. And what you notice is that on the east side, which is on the left, the existing dwelling is actually closer to the side lot line. And what we have done is center the building to ensure that there's no side yard setbacks either to the east or west sides. The variance related to building length and depth is somewhat technical in nature. You'll see that there is a green shaded area at the top, which is the covered deck at the rear. The reason why the length and depth variances are at 19.812 meters is because the deck, underneath the deck, it's been excavated. And as a result of that, that gets calculated into building length and depth. But the house in principle is 16.9 meters. Under the 17-meter mark. And you'll note on the site plan, the rear wall of the adjacent dwellings is very consistent with what's being proposed to you today. So just to reiterate, if the deck was not excavated underneath, it would look exactly the same, but it would not have this variance for building length and depth. With regards to the height of the entrance or to the main wall heights as well, if you go to the next slide, which is the front elevation, you'll see that for the height of the entrance, you see at the entrance, there's the steps and there's a green shaded area. That's the two steps that is above the bylaw requirement. And the related to the wall heights, you'll see the orange dash line, which is meters, and the extent of which the variance is being sought, which is the green sliver area at top, which represents a 9.601 meter mark. You'll also note that the overall building height is in compliance with the zoning bylaw, and I will submit to the committee that these two height variances related to the front steps and to the main wall heights is somewhat indiscernible from a streetscape perspective, and from a massing perspective, it definitely has no impact because the overall height of the dwelling is in compliance with the zoning bylaw. In terms of the FSI, what you note is that this is a similar situation on previous applications where the basement has been calculated as part of the FSI number, which results in FSI 0.982. However, given if you were to take away the FSI in the basement, the actual FSI of the dwelling for the, I'll call the what physically looks as the first and second floors would be 0.77 FSI, which is more than consistent. If you look at the area context map, which is the last slide that I provided, there are FSIs that are greater than 7 in the area. And from a massing and from a streetscape perspective, this property, this development or this proposal would seamlessly integrate into the streetscape and also would have posed minimal impacts, if any, to adjacent dwellings on either side. You'll note that there's no staff comments from planning or any other departments for that matter. And we understand that there is some concerns from a couple of neighbors, and I'd be glad to answer those questions and answer any questions you may have at this point in time.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. Members, do you have any questions of Mr. Rook at this time? I'm just double checking.
Yes.
If we've got any, I'm not seeing the members because we're having some technical difficulties. I just see Member Manning. If we can just pause for a moment.
So I have a quick question.
Yes, go ahead, Member Attarodi.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I need an explanation regarding variance number 8, which is the floor space index of 0.982 versus 0.66 times, which is 1.636 times of the area line. Would you please explain why you have such a high floor space index? Thank you.
Go ahead.
Through you, Madam Chair. Yes, what you see, there is living space behind the garage on the front elevation. That gets included as part of the FSI just because of the fact that it protrudes above the established grade by a certain amount. And as a result of that, that area gets calculated and added to the FSI number, resulting in the 0.982 that's posed. However, if you look at other dwellings that have either been approved in the area, which look very similar to the house that's being proposed, back then, prior to the zoning bylaw, I guess, being changed, those are in the range of 0.7 or above. And what I would submit to you, to the committee, is that house, from a physical perspective, as opposed to the number, but from more of a qualitative perspective, this house would present itself as any other new homes with a similar type of architecture, similar type of massing, and similar type of streetscape design, and it would look very similar in form as a house that would integrate seamlessly into the neighborhood. So the basement is the reason for the high 0.98 number. However, if you were to exclude that, you would be more in the range of other homes that were approved that looks exactly the similar as this house at 0.707.
Okay. Mr. Rook, are you there?
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
good. So you've concluded. All right, thank you so much. I just wanted to make sure that you could hear us. Members, do you have any questions of, any other questions of Mr. Rook before we move on? All right, so then let's call Sarah Marks, one of the area residents, Sarah Marks. If you can state your name and address for our records, please.
Hi, my name is Sarah Marks. I live at 529 St. Clements Avenue.
Okay, and if you can tell us what are your concerns and thoughts on this application?
Yeah, our main concern is about drainage. So the area in general, and especially the block in particular, is prone to flooding. There's been considerable flooding over the years. So the concern is, with the proposal to note where there's very self-escaping and virtually nothing in the backyard hardscaping. So as a result, there'll be a lot less moisture absorbed, which could significantly increase the flood risk for, neighboring properties. So that's really the main concern that I wanted to mention today.
Okay. All right. So there's just concerns around water, drainage, and all of that within the property, which may not be within the purview of this committee. But let's hear anyway what Mr. Rook has to say. Perhaps he might offer, some words that will help you feel a little bit more secure. Mr. Rook, if you wouldn't mind coming back, unless members, you have any questions of Ms. Marks. If not, Mr. Rook, if you can respond.
Yes, ma'am. Through you, Madam Chair. As indicated by yourself, in terms of drainage, just to put Ms. Marks at ease, if the committee, in their wisdom, approves this application, when we apply for a building permit application, drainage and any drainage would be reviewed by the building department as part of their review, and all drainage and water needs to be contained within the site and flow into the city system in accordance with the regulations and rules. So that is vetted by the city, and they would not issue a permit if we're draining on adjacent properties. Hopefully
Mr.
that
Rook,
answers the
sorry,
question.
if you can continue, repeat the last sentence you've made and then continue. We are having Wi-Fi trouble in the council chambers, so voices are coming in and out, and the cameras keep coming in and out. So, Mr. Rook, are you there?
feedback?
Okay, I'm going to just see if you can hear me. Members, if you wish to return. We have a bit of Murphy's Law going on, if you must know. When things are going well, it will not. So we are trying. I'm trying to crack a joke for you to put a smile on your face. We're having it on our end, it's not your end. So let's see, are we back? Are we okay? All right, so shall we continue? I think, members, we were at item number 22. And we had Tay Rook on the line. We had just heard from the area resident, Sarah Marks. Mr. Tay Rook was responding to, was it Ms. Marks or Ms. Atterodi? Did you ask a question? I can't recall, but it was, okay, so he was responding to her comments. And if Mr. Rook, if you can hear me and you come back on, and if you can just kind of, again, do the rebuttal of what you were trying to explain because you got cut off halfway.
Yes, Madam Chair. I'll do this for, again, hopefully we won't get cut off this time.
Okay.
As it relates to drainage, as the committee indicated, this is something that's dealt with through the building permit stage. As a rule, we are not allowed to drain onto adjacent properties. So as part of the building permit review, that would be reviewed and ensure that no drainage is happening onto adjacent properties, and it's only being held on the property and exited through to the city system. So if that were the case, that we were draining onto adjacent properties, the building department would refuse our building permit application, and a building permit would not be issued. So there is a level of review to ensure that's the case, and hopefully that would address Ms. Mark's concerns.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And, you know, we knew it wasn't in the, you know, the parameters of what we would decide, but that was a great explanation. Members, do you have any questions of Mr. Rook at this time? If not, can we entertain a motion knowing that there's 9 variances, there was a couple letters of objection, and, you know, nothing else noted on the file. You've heard the explanations provided. Member Kidd with a motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm persuaded by the comments of the agent that this is an appropriate application and the variances are of minor nature. I'm going to put forward a motion to accept the application.
Okay, motion from Member Kidd to accept the application as is, seconded by Member Manning, and all those in favor? Mr. Rook, your application has been unanimously approved without condition. Members, if we could turn to item number 23. We've got 8 Canary Crescent, and 8 Canary Crescent is to construct a new dwelling. Members, there are 8 variances on this. We do have area residents to speak. There is forestry concerns. There's a couple letters of concerns, and there is also a July 10th staff report asking us to see that variances number 4 and 5 are modified or refused, and there is also one additional condition. I'd like to invite Farah Poyande to come out and state your name and address for the record. Faraz Poyande.
Hello, good afternoon. This is Faraz Poyande. The address is 105 Harrison Garden Boulevard. Regarding the item number, variances number 4 and 5, I revised the drawing and I received the approval from the city planning department.
Okay, so if you could just probably state what the changes are, just tell us which variances and what they're changing from to. Go ahead.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Variances number 4 and 5 for the side main walls, I revised the drawing and reduced the height from 8.20 to 7.99.
So it's now 7.99 meters. Any other changes, sir?
No, this is the only comment that I received from the planning department, and I addressed that one, and I resubmit the drawings.
Okay, thank you so much. And planning is confirming that they have received that, and it's items 4 and 5, that's been reduced to 7.99. If you can continue, if there's anything else you'd like to say, we do have a
Yes.
couple folks to speak to this, so go ahead.
For sure. If you could show the site plan, the lot shape of this property is irregular. So I have 2 points that I need to have, and I need some variances. Variance number 1 for the east side, I ask for reduce the setback to 1.22 meter. Because of the shape of the lot, I needed these 2 corners here and a little on the corner of the garage to be 1.22 meter. It means 4 feet. And the rest is 5 feet. And I think in this area, this is the minor variance for getting the approval for 5 feet. And this is the only thing that I wanted to mention. And regarding the variant number 6, 7, 8, before the new amendment for the, if you could go to the section plan, please. If before February, I think 28th, there is a new amendment for the bylaw for the numbering of the number of the stories of the building. We have a 1.2 meter below established grade. So now the other one, please. I have another section. Yes, this one. If you see the middle of the height of the basement is 40 centimeter above the established grade, and because of that, we have item number 6, and this building called 2-story. But if it was based on the previous bylaw, it was a 2-story. And number 7 and 8 are the result of these variants, and that's all.
Okay, thank you. Members, do you have any questions? If not, let's move on to the next speakers. It's a team of Julie and Richard Western. If you can come online and state your name and address, and one of you may speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Richard Western, and I live at 30 Canary Crescent,
Right.
which is just around the corner from this, from 8 Canary. And I just wanted to voice my objection to the variances as they exceed the current bylaws, and this house would overshadow both neighboring properties. I just feel that it should be within the bylaws, the building bylaws.
Okay. Sorry, is there anything further you'd like to add?
No, that's all
Okay.
I wanted to say.
All right, appreciate that. Members, you have any questions? If not, let's bring back Mr. Faraz Poyande. You've heard what the neighbor has had to say or ask. Can you respond to that, please?
For sure. If you can show the site plan, the new building that we proposed almost follows the existing footprint of the building. I know that based on the bylaw, we need to have 6 feet setbacks, but in this area, a couple of samples I had a couple of previous projects that we got 5 feet. The only thing that I asked for 4 feet on the east side is to, I know, because of the irregular shape of the lot, and that's all. And it's just a couple of feet for a small amount of building that encroach to this from 5 to 4, and that's all. I think this is a very minor variance to this for this bylaw.
Okay, thank you so much. Members, any final questions of the agent? And sir, is there anything final that you want to say? We're going to go into committee for decision making now. All right, so members, we've got 8 variances. There's forestry, that's on there. There's a staff report asking that the variances 4 or 5 be modified. He did that to 7.99 meters. That meets the staff report. And there was a letter of concern that they've come up already and spoken about it. So can I get a motion? Motion from Member Attarodi.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, I would like to put forward a motion to approve this application with the following changes. Modification number 1 is variance number 4. The wall height, the west side exterior main wall height is now 7.99 meter. Variance number 5, the east side yard exterior main wall height is now 7.99. And also would like to attach the staff condition that the property be built substantially in accordance with the west side elevation drawing submitted to the city, date stamp 28th of June 2023, attachment number 1, attached to the report July 10th, 2023, and also subjected to urban forestry. That's my motion.
Thank you. Motion from Member Attarodi to approve this application with those conditions cited. Or can I get someone to second it, please? Seconded by Member Manning. All those in favor? Your application has been unanimously approved with those conditions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Members, we're moving on to item number 24, which is 119 Melrose Avenue. And this is a proposal to construct a new 3-story single family detached dwelling. Please note, members, there is one person here that came on at the last minute to speak to this application. There are, however, 4 letters of objection on file, and there is forestry attached to this, as well as 4 variances. So let's get the agent out, Sandra Gava. Ms. Gava, are you there? If you can state your name and address for the records, please.
Hi, my name is Sandra Gava. My address is 669 Montego Crescent, Burlington.
If you could provide us with a brief presentation, there's someone here to speak to it, so let's just hear the merits of your application.
Okay. Good afternoon, Madam Chairman and respected committee members. Thank you for your time and consideration this afternoon. I am the architect on the file for 119 Melrose. First, I'd like to start off by just taking a look at this site plan. So we are complying with the required front yard setbacks, side yard setbacks, and we are asking for an increase in building depth by 4 feet. Because we are at a side yard setback of 0.45 meters on the east side, since we have no windows there, we are also requesting that the rear deck is in line at 0.45 meters instead of 0.9. Could we go to the next slide, please? For the sidewall height, it is important to note that we are under the overall height maximum of 11 meters. Because of the narrow configuration of the lot, we don't believe our sidewall height creates any negative impact. Furthermore, the design of this dwelling reads as a 2-story plus a roof, the front wall height only being 7.72 meters. We feel that this is scaled very appropriately for the neighborhood, and for reference, our overall height is 8.5 inches lower than the neighbor to the west, its top of roof. Next slide, please. We are asking for a floor space index of 0.93. In our research, we found that there are a few higher approvals in close proximity on the street above 0.93, as well as a few in the high 80s down the road. Next slide, please. For our building depth of 18.22 meters, we researched that there are 10 higher approvals in the immediate neighborhood. In addition, the 2 closest approvals on our side of the street, as you can see in the aerial shots, they have a building depth along the full depth of the home without stepping back, which is similar to our proposal. Can we go to the next slide, please? In these next two slides, we wanted to address the specific impact concerns of the west neighbor at 121, which my client, the homeowner, has been having some discussions with. In doing the shadow study between the permitted and the proposed, in March, October months, we discovered that there's only a brief impact at around 10 a.m. and then zero difference for the rest of the day, given that this backyard is south-facing. And really no discernible difference whatsoever on the neighbor's deck. And in the last slide, we have a study showing June 21st. Again, a brief difference around noon on the building itself, but afterwards, no difference on the rest of the day. The deck, though not a variance in and of itself, was causing some privacy concerns for the neighbors, and we do intend on putting landscape screening on either side. And we just wanted to note that the homeowner did have some lengthy discussions to try and satisfy the concerns of the west neighbor at 121. We offered to step back the building by 2 feet on the second and third floors, but we were informed that this would not be satisfactory and that he would still oppose. As such, we've decided to move forward to the committee with our original proposal, as we feel both in the context of recent approvals, as well as our specific contextual impact, that our impact is minor. There are no issues from planning, and we have no issues with the urban forestry conditions. Thank you for your consideration.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Members, do you have any questions? Okay, there being none, we've got a new entry here, Diogo.
Excuse me,
Janelle.
Madam Chair.
Yes. Who is this?
Madam Chair, it's Paul Kidd. I did
sorry.
have a question, if I could. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead. I thought it was somebody else speaking. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I just had a question about the right-of-way. On the survey, there's a right-of-way shown along the west limit of the subject property. And on the site, it's not dimensioned, but it's shown as over part 3 on plan 66R 22260. And on the site plan, you're showing the house sitting about a foot into that right of way. Can you just clarify that situation for me, please?
Ms. Gava, if you can respond.
Yes, no problem. So the right-of-way, if you pull up the site plan, you can see that the neighbor at 121 has encroached onto the right-of-way by, I believe, a foot or so. And we have also been given the ability to encroach into that right-of-way by the same amount. So 0.67 is the encroachment there.
Okay, does that answer all?
How did you get the right to, what was the process by which you got the right to encroach into the right-of-way?
We applied for a zoning review. We assumed that that was our right-of-way, and we did not receive a variance for that side yard setback.
Encroaching into a right-of-way is a legal issue. It's not a bylaw issue. So I think that's something you need to examine a little closer.
Okay.
Sorry, Ms. Gava, are you there?
Yes, was there a question? Well, we will have to look into that.
Mr. Member Kidd had further comments. If you would like to repeat that, I don't think she heard you.
I'm just saying that it makes it very difficult for us to approve a building that encroaches into a right-of-way. Although it's not a bylaw issue.
Yes.
Anyway, that's my comment. I guess it's not really a question. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Gava, if you can respond.
Yes, no problem. So the right-of-way, if you pull up the site plan, you can see that the neighbor at 121 has encroached onto the right-of-way by, I believe, a foot or so. And
I don't see that there's anything in terms of like a staff report that talks to that. But how about we move on at least to hear what the neighbor has to say while we consider this more? And if city planning has any further comments, we would welcome that. But let's ask Diego Janelli to come on the line. Mr. Janelli, if you can state your name and address for the record, please.
Team committee. My name is Diego Janelli. I live in 119 Melrose Avenue, next door neighbor from 121 Melrose Avenue, next to the new property. So first, before I'm going through my arguments to strongly object the proposed building, I just want to make sure that the arguments raised by the architects are not valid, not because there's a small percentages of houses that get approval because of the variances, make this case, with grounds to do so, right? What the architect failed to say is that the majority of the houses that have been built here over the last 20 years do not exceed these variances. So that's number one. But let me explain with facts why we are opposing to this. These variances significantly deviate. They're not minor variances. They deviate from the existing bylaws and regulations that have been carefully put in place to ensure the harmonious coexistence of properties within our neighborhood. I'm very surprised, as I said earlier, that they're labeled minor variances because their changes are highly material. I will address each of the detrimental implications. The first variance, this encroachment on the setback not only compromises the privacy of my family and neighboring property, but also casts a shadow over home, significantly reducing the amount of natural light we receive. Sunlight is not only essential for our physical and mental well-being, but also play a crucial role in maintaining energy efficient within our home. The study that our architect presented are arbitrary. We didn't have access to that, and we have different sort of support to say that it's impacting all three levels of our houses and neighbors. And number two, the increased building depth disrupts the visual aesthetic and the harmonious scale of the neighborhood. It compromises the open space that contributes to natural flow of air and light that may result in a sense of overcrowded congestion. This is one of the most damaging variances I have to highlight. A big portion of my family room, kitchen, bedroom, and walkout basement area will be greatly impacted by losing considerably natural light from 6 a.m. to 11 a.m., blocking our view from our backyard to open green area and shared by immediate neighbors' houses backyard, not to mention the loss of privacy from a very high-rise deck that extends well beyond the 1.2 meters that is in violation of the current 17-meter bylaw. Third variances, the 19 meters exceed the limit by 29%, further exacerbating the visual impact and overshadow on the neighboring property. What the architect failed to mention is that the house is proposed as a 3-story house. She said it was a 2-story house with a roof. The third story is really occupying most of the roof, so it's a 3-story and it's very high with minimal roof. Point number 4. Variances, this excessive floor space index, instead of being 0.6%, is going to 0.93 times the area. Amplify the bulk and scale of the proposed contraction of variances would undoubtedly mar the scenic view that my property affords. The surrounding trees have long been a cherished aspect of our neighborhood, providing a serene and picturesque backdrop of our daily life. The proposed contraction would disrupt this view, impeding the natural beauty that drew us to this area in the first place. It is worth to note that over the past few days, I have presented the owner of 19 Melrose Avenue with a range of innovative solutions to effectively address the challenge at hand. I initially suggested constructing the new house using the existing footprint, not going 2 feet backwards, resulting in a forward shift of nearly 2 feet compared to the proposed design. That will reduce the setback variance from 4 feet to 2. But furthermore, if that house were to be lined up with my house, it would move 2.5 feet further into the front of the house, which will eliminate all the need for an exception in the setback. I have talked with other next door neighbors that he's fine with having that house a little bit toward the front. Unfortunately, the neighbor said that they don't want to pursue that option because trigger other variances and because they want to really prioritize having two-car driveway to park the two cars one behind another. It's important to know that that house has an indoor garage that could house the second car. I think that, you know, he's decided to have two cars line up one behind the other and put the house further back is not a reasonable argument. It's at the expense of all neighbors, and there's a few neighbors opposing to that immense structure that's going to be sticking
Okay,
out
I'll
our
ask you to
backyard.
summarize, please. Your time is almost up.
So, I kindly request that you carefully review the concern objection against this proposed construction. Our homes and property are not just mere investment, they are our heavens on place and refugee. The decision made by this committee holds significant weight in shaping the character and livability of our neighborhood. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you so much. Members, any questions of the speaker? Yes, Member Kidd, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to ask the speaker if at any time he gave his neighbor permission to build the house on a portion of his right of way. Was that an agreement you had with him in any way?
No, they never approached to me to mention that. And if there's an encroachment, need to be agreed upon mutual parties. So I have not been consulted. I have not been advised about that.
Thank you.
Okay, if no other questions, Ms. Gava, if you can come back out and address all those concerns, including the additional question that Member Kidd has raised and around the impacts to this neighbor. You have 5 minutes.
Yes, just to speak quickly to the right-of-way comment. My client has advised me that he does have the legal paperwork to support that right-of-way encroachment. He was provided with this paperwork when he bought the house. I apologize, we don't have it at the moment, but we can provide it if necessary. So we do have the legal paperwork for this right-of-way. To speak to Mr. Gianelli's concerns, his suggestion to move the house 2 feet forward, that would result in 2 other variances. That would result in a front yard setback variance, and that would result in a landscape open space variance. So to suggest to pull it forward to create more variances is not something that we wanted to pursue. And I'd just like to stress both the precedents and our immediate context to address his concerns. Again, 10 larger depths supported on the street along the full length of the dwelling. We've proven that there's not a discernible difference between what's permitted versus what's proposed, given the shadows, given that these are south-facing views. Unfortunately, views onto somebody else's property, though are nice, are not a right of any individual property owner. We're only talking about 4 feet here. These are very deep lots, 150 feet deep, with lots of greenery and foliage in back. We do believe that the neighbor will still be able to enjoy these views, regardless of this 4 feet encroachment. And again, the height, we believe that is quite well contextualized within the neighborhood. This is a 3-story house, not a 2-story home, but my comment was in reference to the fact that it reads architecturally like a 2-story home with a roof at the front. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Members, do you have any questions of Ms. Gava? All right, you have quite a lot in front of you to make a decision on for this year, and you've heard what the neighbors had to say. Regardless of whether there was paperwork for that right-of-way, we don't have it before us, so you would have to treat it as not existing at this time. And there's 4 letters of objection, and there's forestry, and there's, of course, the 4 variances. When you're ready, can I entertain a motion, please? Member Manning.
I'd like to make a motion to defer this application. I'm satisfied that some of the variances are minor, but I'm very concerned about the encroachment issue, and I'd like to give the applicant an opportunity to deal with that.
Okay, motion on the floor from Member Manning to defer this application. Can I get a seconder? Seconded by Member Attarodi. All those in favor? Okay, unanimously approved. Your application has been deferred. I would suggest you might use that time to provide all the paperwork and everything that's necessary to deal with this encroachment issue and work with the area resident, Mr. Diego Janelli, about his concerns as well as all the other letters of objection before coming back, and that is sine die. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Please, everyone, let me know if you ever need a break, because I'll just steamroll ahead, but please butt in if you do. We're moving on to item number 25, which is 132 Glencairn Avenue. This 132 Glencairn Avenue, number 25, is an application to construct a new detached dwelling, and we've got Mr. Tay Rook again coming back. I think this is his last application. We do have someone speaking to this on as well. And members, for your understanding, there is one letter of support, but there's 6 letters of objection. Forestry applies. There's 4 variances. Mr. Rook, if you could come back, state your name and address again for our records.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Tay Rook, planner for the owners of the property at 2 Glencairn Avenue.
Okay, and if you could provide us with a brief presentation on the merits of this application, that would be helpful.
Yes, Madam Chair, and through you, there's 4 variances related to facilitate the construction of a single detached house. There's variances related to building length, FSI, number of platforms, and the area of the platform. The committee may or may not be aware that this was before the Committee of Adjustment and subsequently to TLAB. The previous application was a slightly different application and different variances related to the proposal. It was approved at committee and then subsequently went to TLAB and was refused in that form. The proposal before you today is different in the sense that there was variances related to side yard setbacks on the previous application. So the building was wider and was closer to either side to the east and to the west. You'll note that there is no side yard variances being sought for this proposal. It's 0.91 and 0.92 on the west and east sides respectively. The variance is related to building length. The building length variance is the same in terms of 18.29, but what we have done was on the second story, we have recessed the second story back. And you'll note on the presentation slides that I provided that there is 2 colored areas, green and yellow. The yellow representing the second story that exceeds the 17-meter mark, and the green representing the ground floor that exceeds the 17-meter mark. It's on the second page of the presentation slides. So the previous proposal was a single 2-story element that went all the way back to 18.29. And you'll note that the rear wall of the first floor is in line with the adjacent properties at 136. Have an addition that was proposed that was done for their house. You'll note that there was in the previous application, there was variances related to height. There are no variances related to height in this application. So the house has gotten smaller, it's gotten narrower, and the FSI in actuality has gotten smaller as well, even though the FSI is being proposed at 0.893. And that, once again, is related to the basement being calculated as part of the FSI calculation. If the previous proposal, which looked similar and a little bit larger than the current proposal, was at 0.58 in terms of FSI, and that was excluding the basement. In this proposal, if you do exclude the basement as previously, it would be at 0.55. So it is slightly smaller, and we were trying to be respectful to the neighbors by providing the appropriate setback on either side, by maintaining the requirements of the bylaw for side yard setbacks. And then we did recess the second story. The variance is related to the number of platforms and the area of platform. Once again, is related to the fact that the basement is being calculated as the first floor, and as a result of that, the rear deck is considered one platform, and there's a second platform off the second story, which is considered the second platform. So that's why it's being considered two platforms for this proposal. The reality is it's the rear deck, and the area requirements for platforms is significantly smaller at 4 square meters. However, I would submit to you that the technical aspect of the fact that the basement is being calculated at the first floor, and the fact that the proposed deck is essentially serves as a rear deck, is technical in nature and provides and is appropriate for this application. The application was discussed with planning staff. They have no concerns for and have standard conditions of approval. We have no issues with those. And I understand there's some neighbors and that are going to speak, and I will address their comments at that time. But however, if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Okay, thank you. Members, do you have any questions at this time? If not, let's move on to the next speaker noted, and that's it's a Sylvain Rouleau and a Julia Curry who are speaking on behalf of the neighbors. So are you there? If you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Sylvain Rouleau, and my address is 66 Wellington Street West, Suite 4100 in Toronto, Ontario.
Thank you. If you can share with us your concerns and, sorry. If you can repeat your name again, I think he said it's Sylvain Rouleau, R-O-U-L-E-A-U.
That's correct. It's Sylvain Rouleau.
Okay, and if you can share your concerns, I know you're speaking on behalf of several entities.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am counsel for the owners of 136 Glencairn and 128 Glencairn Avenue, which are the properties directly adjacent and to the east and west of the subject property. And I'm counsel represented these same owners in the TLAB proceedings that occurred after the last variances. My submission to you this afternoon will largely follow the letter and documents that I did submit to the Committee of Adjustment in my July 6, 2023 letter. As you are aware, and as you've heard, an almost identical application went to the TLAB last October, where the variances were, in our submission, almost identical, and they were sought for a building that was almost identical as well. This was refused by the TLAB. The TLAB member found that the variances did not respect and reinforce the existing character of the neighborhood, and that the application failed to meet the minor test, which requires that impacts not be unacceptably adverse. The TLAB decision was subsequently upheld after a review request was sought by the applicant, and it stands. The application before you is substantially the same as what was recently refused. The only physical change is one side yard setback, not two as was submitted by the planner on the west side, and that's a 30 centimeter change from 0.61 to 0.91 setback, so that it now meets the zoning standard. There is a small setback on the top of the structure as noted by the applicant, and the variance regarding the height has not changed. That is a variance that simply got lost after the change in the zoning bylaw in December. So if I could ask to pull up page 19, the last page of my letter. So the last page of those renderings, please. If you keep going down to the last page of those attachments at the back of my letter, you'll see a rendering of the front of the property with the height of all the different stories. If you keep going. We'll keep going. There will be some pictures and eventually a rendering of the front. I apologize. Just a few more pages and we're almost there. One more page. There you go. So as you can see, the main floor of the proposed dwelling is significantly above grade in this case, and that has resulted in it being closer to the elevation of a typical second floor. As you can see, it's almost in line with the two neighbors' second floor, and the proposed second floor being more in line with the third story. So the representations that it is a basement are, in my respectful submission, inaccurate. In fact, it has been counted as an above grade floor because the elevations do reflect as so. And this has a very important impact on the neighboring properties. And while 136 Glencairn may be of a similar length to the proposed development, the above grade massing at the rear of 132 Glencairn is much more impactful. And that's because the combination of the very high FSI and the building length that has only a very minor step back at the top floor. And this is a very sharp contrast to the rear step backs that's found at every story of 136 Glencairn, where it gradually steps back and increases that rear yard setback. And this reduces the massing and impact at the rear of the residence. And you can see, if I could ask to go up 3 pages to the first rendering, that one there, thank you. You can see that the renderings clearly illustrate the impact that the proposed development will have on 132 Glencairn will have on 128 Glencairn, where the rear of the proposed development extends well past the rear of the residence at 128. And it is our submission that the applicant has returned to the committee adjustment with almost the exact same proposal. And it is an attempt to have the committee of adjustment approve this application with the knowledge that it will now not have a right of appeal at this time. Numerous neighbors, as well as the Lytton Park Residents Association, have expressed their concerns
I'll
with
ask you
the
to summarize,
application.
please.
And the application has not altered in its built form when compared to the previous application that the TLAB refused 6 months ago. And the dwelling simply does not meet the 4-part test in its current form and should be refused by the Committee of Adjustment.
All right, thank you. Members, do you have any questions for the speaker? Okay, there being none, let's get Mr. Rook back out. I think you've heard what Mr. Rouleau has had to say. If you can respond within 5 minutes, please.
Yes, Madam Chair. Members of committee, yes, this did go to TLAB. It was refused at the TLAB hearing. It was a different proposal. It did have different variances. And as the committee is well aware, this is a new application that needs to be considered its own merits on its current proposal and the current variances that are before you. The variances, it's not an identical plan in the sense that we have made changes, we have made the house smaller, we have ensured that the side yard setbacks are complied with, because previously we were seeking variances for the side yards. With respect to the building length, you'll note that 128, which is the property on the right, is set back further away from the western lot line, and provided that it provides an additional buffer to that particular dwelling. So that last slide, which showed side elevation, was somewhat misrepresentative. It seemed like that the 128 Glencairn was immediately abut to the rear to the side lot. In addition to that, you find in this property itself is somewhat of an anomaly in the sense that it has the same depth in terms of lot depth. However, the frontage is smaller. It's one of the smaller lot frontages in the area. And if you go to my presentation slides, I have some pictures at the end of the materials, and you'll note that these pictures are on Glencairn and on Glen. Are properties that are of similar lot frontages in the area. If you go to the next slide. And the way in which the housing form or development has occurred on these smaller lots is, one, You don't want to go deeper because it does create an impact in terms of the adjacent neighbors. However, in addition, you want to maintain a height that is somewhat consistent with the areas. And once again, there are no height variances of any kind for this proposal. So what you find is, in terms of the architectural vernacular for these types of smaller lots, is integral garages and having a raised first floor. So I would submit to you that this is similar in terms of the lot frontage. This is very similar to the lot frontages that's represented in the pictures before you. In addition to that, what you see is integral garages, raised first floors, and of a matching that is consistent and similar in terms of the adjacent neighbors in the area. That would be suitable for the streetscape and would pose a minimal impact to the adjacent neighbors. In terms of the FSI, once again, if the basement was not included, it would be at 0.53, whereas before it was at 0.58. So this is a smaller house that's being proposed on the site. Those are my comments and answers. And if there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Members, do you have any questions? Okay, there being none, can I get a motion? Just please note that forestry applies. Okay. Member Attarodi.
Yes, to you, Madam Chair, I would like to put forward a motion to approve this application subjected to urban forestry.
Okay, this application, Member Attarodi is putting forward an approval with a condition of forestry, seconded by Member Kidd. All those in favor? Okay, and dissenting? Member Manning is dissenting. Your application, Mr. Rook, has been approved with that condition of forestry. Thank you. Members, how about we take a little 10-minute break to get back our energy? See you back in 10 minutes. We have 5 more applications to go.
That's good.
Okay, bye-bye. Hi, everyone. Okay, everyone, we're back, and let's get started with item number 26. Members, item number 26 is number 66 Parkhurst Boulevard. Please note, members, there's 8 variances here. There's 1 letter of concern, but there's 6 letters of support. You must also note that a heritage report has come in at the last moment, for which city staff will put up on the screen at the appropriate moment. But let's get Mr. Glenn Rubinoff back in here. If you can state your name and address, please, for the records.
Good afternoon. It's Glenn Rubinoff Design Group, 18 Gloucester Lane, Toronto.
Okay, thank you so much. Members, we do have someone to speak to this item. So, Mr. Rubinoff, if you wouldn't mind providing us with a presentation on the merits of your case, and I'm not sure if you've had a chance to see this heritage planning report, which is July 12th, if we're able to just see what the comments are so members can understand what is the conclusion of this.
Thank you. Yes, this is an application for a new home at 66 Parkhurst Boulevard. The variances before you are fairly standard and consistent within the context of redevelopment in this neighborhood. We did provide a map which shows some characteristics of other homes that have been renovated or new homes in the area. And a lot of the variances that we have before you requested are similar to that. The items before you are building height of 8.9, where 8.5 is permitted, so just over a foot. Wall height of 7.24, where 7 meters is permitted, so that's about 8 inches. That's variance 2 and 3. A side yard setback of 0.9, where 1.2 is required, and that's on both sides. But on one side, it's actually 0.51. If I can address that a little bit, just because the neighbor at number 64 has a projecting, thank you very much for putting that up, has a projecting chimney on the side, which the property line appears to run adjacent to. So the actual variance is listed against that chimney, whereas the actual house proposed is at 0.61. That chimney proposal is at 0.51. But that's for the front portion of the house. As you go towards the back of the house, it increases to 0.91, which is more in keeping with, in terms of it's closer to the bylaw. So it's just a front portion of it that really is what the variance is for. 0.9 is a fairly typical setback that's been granted in the area. And in consideration of the existing house that's on the property right now, the older house that's existing, their variances, the house is actually quite a bit narrower than what's currently there. On the right-hand side, adjacent to number 68, the existing house is about 1'6", with some projections going as close as perhaps 6 inches to the property line. Now we're proposing to be at 0.9, which is 3 feet. So we're increasing the setback on one side for the entire length of the house, and on the other side for about half of the proposed house. Finally, the density proposed is 0.688, where 0.6 is permitted. A portion of that is for the garage. Part of the garage exceeds the width, therefore it's part of it is considered GFA, and that's why part of it is under that. There is, I believe the other thing is the eaves trough. Again, that's projection of eaves trough into the side yard. So the letter that I saw from Heritage this morning is just a sudden, hey, can you stop the whole production for 6 months while we look at this? It's very disconcerting because This is the first we've heard of it. It's not a architectural concern, it's more of a historical concern. And my client would be happy to put a plaque up to recognize that someone lived there in the 30s to the 60s, an editor in the Globe and Mail. And that's, I'm all for that. I think it's a reasonable to acknowledge when there's someone who lived in the home for a period of time, but to ask us to defer the application for 6 months so they can study it is not really fair to the homeowner, not when it's presented at the last minute, just before a hearing. And certainly, when I look at the home and I look at the homes in the area and on the street, it's not something that has any outstanding features. But I'm also pointing out that this is not a heritage district, and this is not a designated or even listed home. So someone privately asked for it to be looked at, and asking us to put all of our plans on hold for that doesn't seem to be a reasonable request, in my opinion. But that's what's before you today.
I'll ask you to summarize, sir. Go ahead.
I'll just summarize it. We did speak with neighbors and got 6 letters of support, and we also, planning had no concerns. And I think that's important to note, that there was no report from planning on this. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Members, do you have any questions at all? Okay, Member Manning, go ahead.
Just gonna ask if you can put the heritage report back up for a second.
Yeah, that heritage report of July 13th, that's requesting deferral so that they can get a chance to look at it further. So they're requesting application be deferred 6 months to allow staff the time to research and evaluate the property for possible designation under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. Okay, any other questions? Yes, Member Manning, go ahead.
No, if there's no other questions, I have a motion.
We do have someone to speak to this, so if you just hold that for a moment. Let's get Kaveh Abnaz out. This is someone representing the owners at 64 Parkhurst. So Kaveh Abnaz, if you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Madam Chair, for giving me this opportunity. I am representing 64 Parkhurst and 68 Parkhurst, the two adjacent homes to the 66 Parkhurst Boulevard. And I will start, whenever is okay, I will start to deal with the objections on the requested minor variances.
Please proceed. Your time is running out. Go ahead.
Okay, beautiful. So there are 8 minor variances as indicated in the requested minor variance. So the first one is about the height of the peak of the building, which is 8.9 in place of 8.5. And the second one is the height of the wall, which is 7.24 meters in place of 7 meters. As it is indicated in the pictures that I got, there are 64 has 2 windows open to the common areas, to this common corridor with 66, and 68 Parkhurst had one window to that. So this new requested minor variances will impact the amount of the light that these 2 neighbors will get drastically. So this is the objection, especially the 64, which the main floor, they have the window to the living room that's going to be impacted a lot by this minor variances. So they are not comfortable with it. The second item after this 2 is item number 4 and item number 5, which is about setbacks. Item number 5 is about the setback with side setback with the neighborhood of 64 Parkhurst, which it has to be 1.2 meter. And right now, the requested minor variance is 51 centimeters. Again, as far as there are two concerns that I mentioned. The first thing is, as you see, there are wires and lines and everything running there. And regarding that, 51 centimeter is not a proper clearance to do the maintenance or cleaning up. So this is one of the things that they have the objection. And the other thing is, we know that yes, when the demolition is going to happen, the whole demolition, there should be a demolition engineering instructions approved by the city. But still, if anything happens, if any residences in this place, because the 30 centimeter clearance of the excavation with the wall aged at more than 90 years, it has scared the residents a lot, both of them, both 64 and 68. They are not comfortable with that. The last issue about this side clearance is about, as you see on both sides, the building encroaches and violates the side setbacks from the east side and the west side. So again, another concern of both residents is if anything happens in the backyard, as far as the access is not right, the other neighborhood, which you walk from one side, the side setback is more than 3 feet in every single building you look at it in the neighborhood. So because it's not like that, the access for the rescue or anything going to be a little bit harder. So they have some concerns about the safety again. The next item, which is item number 6, is about the platform. There is not much of a concern about the more encroachment of the platform into the front yard setback. The only thing was because it's not following the pattern of other houses in the neighborhood, that will impact the view of the two neighbors, and they are not comfortable with this again. The next item is item number 7 is about eaves, which they want more encroachment of 9 centimeters from 0.3 meters to 0.21 meters, which again, they're going to be a problem of the lighting to the common areas between the two and on the side. So the last item is about the index, which going to be increased from 0.6 to 0.688. Of course, none of the owners of 64 and 68, they have no concern about it. The only concern is if there is a change in the backyard setback of the building and the lineup of the back of the houses will be changed. So again, there will be impact, especially for 64. As you see, they have 3 windows in that part of the house, and
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to have
there-
to stop you there. You've gone over your time. Okay, so what I have to do is give the owner a chance to, the agent a chance to rebut at this time. So, Mr. Rubinoff, if you, members, do you have any questions of that speaker? No, okay.
Just a quick question.
Yes,
Just a
go
quick
ahead.
question. So, Mr. Abnaz, Kove Abnaz was representative which neighbors, if he can just.
Both, I represent both neighbors, 64 and 68.
All
Okay,
right.
thank you.
Okay, any other questions before? Yeah, member Bartolo, go ahead.
Yeah. So for the agent there, how are the cables, maintenance, windows, and everything happening now? Because 64 is even tighter than 66. 68 has very little room. Like you spoke about a lot of things, almost none of them have to do with the variances. They more sound like just like general complaints. So I'm curious how to like the relevance of most of your comments. How are they clearing snow? How is the water now? Because none of it makes any sense. There's like centimeters in between. And number 66 is actually improving the condition between 64.
I think you unmuted me, but not the previous speaker.
No, this is for the previous speaker, because they're all just red herring arguments that are meaningless. Like, speak to the variances, don't make things up.
So with the 64, the variance is about 69 centimeters, is more than 2 feet. And regarding the 68 is about 1 foot. So it's not just some centimeters.
I'm looking at the survey for number 64.
Yeah.
Regardless, maybe Mr. Rubinoff can elaborate a bit more and finish his rebuttal.
All right, thank you. If no more questions, let's invite Mr. Rubinoff back on and to respond to all of those concerns. Go ahead.
Sure, thank you. As per Mr. Member Bartolo's comments, this diagram right before you now shows the existing home. Right now at 66 is quite a bit wider, but also it shows that 68 is very close to the property line and 64 is pretty well on the property line. So if anything, what we were creating is more space between the buildings. It's not the concerns expressed. I'm not sure I understand them, to be honest. I do think that this is an improvement in terms of space between the buildings. We do have 0.9 on the one side, and for the other side facing 64, the back half of the proposed is at 0.9 as well. The actual house is at 0.6, but because there's a projection of the chimney at 64, that pushes it to 0.51. That's the property line is following the chimney. There's a little adjustment there that was done, I guess, with the survey. So I feel that what we've got here is a very even-handed approach to making more space between the buildings to what is currently there, and that any concerns related to impact of demolition and whatnot, well, we go through building department, we go through building permits, and we get engineers, and we do things properly. So I'm not sure that I really have a concern that it's a planning concern. It's more of a functional building concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, do you have any questions? Yes, go ahead, Member Manning.
Ready for a motion if there's no more questions, actually.
Okay, if no more questions, go ahead, go for it.
Okay, through you, Madam Chair. I mean, initially I was concerned about variance number 5, but I have been persuaded by the applicant. This is an improvement of existing conditions, and I think it is in keeping with the neighborhood. So I think it meets the 4-part test, and I'd like to make a motion to approve the application. Was it subject to forestry? Sorry.
There is no forestry on here. There was
No
just
forestry,
that,
and there's no planning.
yeah.
So just approval.
Okay, so Member Manning with a motion to approve this application as is. Can I get someone to second that? Seconded by Member Bartolo. All those in favor? Okay, dissenting? Member Attarodi dissenting. Okay, your application has been approved, sir, with no conditions. Thank you. And we've got Mr. Rubinoff again for item number 27, which is number 25 Plateau Crescent. You don't have to reintroduce yourself, but members, this Plateau Crescent is an application to construct a new single-family dwelling with a front porch and a rear walkout and rear deck. There are 3 variances. There is a staff report of July 6th that has 1 recommended condition, and there are 5 letters of support. So there's no one else to speak to this application. I just want to turn it over to members. Do you require a presentation on this one? If none needed, Mr. Rubinoff, would you like to say anything to the members, before they take this into committee for decision making?
No, I think there was enough delays during the day today that I don't want to hold you up. So I think it's a pretty straightforward application. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That being said, and no questions, motion from Member Kidd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with the agent that this is a straightforward application, and given the support of the planning staff, I'd like to put forward a motion to accept the application and make it subject to the conditions set out in the July 6th planning report, that the main wall height be developed in accordance with the front, rear, and side elevation drawings attached to the planning staff report.
Great. Motion from Member Kidd to approve that application with those conditions, seconded by Member Attarodi. All those in favor? Your application has been unanimously approved with those conditions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Members, let's turn over to item number 28, which is number 278 Keewatin Avenue. Members, this is an application to have a new covered front porch with a mudroom addition to replace an existing covered front porch, construct a new third floor addition, and interior alterations. Please note that this has 12 variances. There is a staff report that's asking for variance number 2 be modified, and there was one other normal condition that's attached to that. And there are 5 letters of support. We don't have anyone to speak to this application. Can I get a David Smith out, please? Mr. Smith, if you could state your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is David Smith. My address is 401 Craven Road here in Toronto.
Okay, thank you. And members, seeing that there's no one to speak to this, and I'll just ask you, Mr. Smith, noting the staff report, did you want to modify variance number 2? Is there any modifications you're making?
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. Obviously, we complied with City Planning's request to reduce variance number 2. So variance number 2 has been revised. The original proposed side main wall heights were 10.31 meters, and they've been reduced down to the requested 9.5 meters.
9.5 meters. So variance number 2 has been reduced to 9.5 meters. Any other changes?
There are no other changes.
Staff, do you feel that you require a presentation on this application? Okay, there being none, we've got 12 variances. He's met the staff report by modifying variance number 2 to 9.5 meters. There is one other condition attached to that staff report, as you could see, should you approve, and there is 5 letters of support. Can I get a motion, please? Motion from Member Kidd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I feel the requested variances are a minor in nature, and I'd like to put forward a motion to accept the application as amended. I'd like to modify variance number 2 regarding the maximum permitted height of all side exterior main walls from 10.31 meters to 9.5 meters, and I'd like to make it conditional on the height of the main walls being developed in accordance with the east and west side elevations drawings attached to the planning staff report dated July 6, 2023.
Okay, motion from Member Kidd. With a motion to approve this application with those conditions, seconded by Member Attarodi. All those in favor? Unanimously approved with those conditions. Thank you so much. Members, let's look at application number 29, which is 111 Burbank Road. Please note that this is a proposal to construct a new single-family dwelling. Please note that there are 8 variances. There's forestry that applies. There is 1 letter of objection. We've got 1 person to speak to this, and let's invite the agent out, Ali Shakiri, Once again, if you can state your name and address for the record, sir.
Good afternoon, Ali Shakiri, 326 Shepherd Avenue East.
Okay, and if you can provide us with a brief presentation on the merits of your application. We've got someone.
Sure. First of all, there is a change. I'd like to remove a variance and modify another one.
Sure.
The variance number 5 is going to change to read the minimum required setback to the top of bank is 10 meters. The proposed setback to top of bank is 8.01 meter.
Okay.
So that 1.13 is going to change to 8.01. And the variance number 6 is entirely removed. So I wish to delete variance number 6.
Okay, variance number 6 has been deleted, and the top of bank has now been increased to 8.01 meters.
That's correct, yes.
That's number 5. Yeah, 5 and 6. All right, so that being said, if you can provide us a few merits of your application so that we can hear from the other speaker that's noted here.
Sure, if I can have the support material displayed the first page. And while the staff do that, I'd like to explain that previously, if we turn to the second page, sorry. Second page, yes, previously we had that variance from the proposed cabana to the top of the bank that is delineated by that yellow line. But I confirmed with the zoning department that the way they take the measurement is from the corner of the covered deck to the long-term stable top of the slope, which is 8.01 meter. So therefore, we removed the variance and changed the other one majorly. And this is a very, very reasonable proposal, I'd say. That's a red dotted line, as you can see, is showing the location of the existing building on the lot. So this being the being a ravine lot, we tried to keep the rearmost wall of the wall in line with the existing one, so we are not encroaching any further than the existing wall into the ravine. And the new portion of the house is developed towards the front, which luckily is not going to be going any further than the neighbor on the north side. The side yard setback that we are requesting is on the top side of the drawing. That's a dark blue diagonal line is showing the minimum required side yard. And as you can see, we are just minimally poking into that boundary. We consider that a minor variance. That's one of the variances requested. There is also the light blue line on the front side that's delineating the minimum required front yard setback. And the yellow, the light blue shaded area is showing the encroachment only on the second floor into the minimum required front yard, only on the second floor, I repeat. That's why we're requesting the front yard setback. The side yard setback after the 19 meters of the length, that variance number, I believe one of the variances is very confusing because of the way the bylaw is written. Variance number 4 is requesting 7.5 meter side yard when beyond the 19 meter of depth of the building or beyond the 17 meter of the length of the building. These are all just the definitions of the zoning bylaw, pretty complicated, I guess, to everybody. I tried to simplify it by showing those yellow shaded areas towards the back. Those are the areas we need the side yard variance for it. Variance number 4, and not even in the center. And that is currently occupied by the existing building anyway. So we have the existing building located over there anyways. I don't know if there is anything else on the variances that I need to clarify. If you were with me for a second. No, I don't think if there is anything. Oh, the coverage allowance for this lot is 30%. What we have occupied is only 19%. So this building is majorly smaller than the allowable coverage for this lot. I have no further comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Members, do you have any questions of Mr. Shakiri? Yes, Member Kidd, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I noticed in the memo from the Toronto Region Conservation Authority, they're asking for a deferral on this application until they have an opportunity to review it. Are you considering a deferral at all in the light of that request?
I prefer not to defer the case for several reasons. Number one is since we have prepared and filed an application with TRCA, the geotechnical studies that they're mentioning is already prepared and filed. I have a copy of that on this file. And the location of the long-term stable top of a slope is accurately shown. That's the first page of my support material. If the staff kindly show that on the screen. As they mentioned, the variances, the TRC also is mentioning that, you know, that the new location, the permanent or the location of the stable top of slope, according to the geotechnical studies, might affect the variances. But in this case, it won't, because we have accurately determined that by the geotechnical studies submitted. I still don't see that first page of my support material on the screen. So basically, the TRCA will have to issue a permit for this anyways, regardless of any variances. We still have to wait for the TRCA to issue a permit for us, and whatever the comment that they have, we have to basically correspond to. And that's separate from the variances that we're asking here. And if our variances are wrong, then we won't be issued a permit. So we have to come back to the Committee of Adjustment, which is going to be a risk for us, which based on my experience, there is no risk. Everything is accurate here. So deferring it, I'd say, is going to just duplicate a lot of administration and is going to cause very, very costly delay for my client because I'm not sure when the TRCA is going to be able to issue a permit. And at that time, going back to the committee is going to take another several months. And one more thing is that I'm sure you see a lot of these variances, a lot of these applications, and getting a permit from TRCA has never been prerequisite to have a COA hearing. I do understand that getting a permit from them is always a condition of the approval of the Committee of Adjustment, but this is the first time in my 20-something years that I see the TRCA is mentioning that we have to first get their permit and then apply for the Committee of Adjustment. And so based on this, I think, I mean, whichever is your decision, we respectfully accept, but we would prefer to proceed. And if there is any question, I'd be more than glad to answer anyways.
Thank you. Any more questions, members? And with respect to TRCA, I mean, we're not in charge of their conditions and what city planning is saying, so members still have to consider that as part of their decision making. So, Member Attarodi, go ahead, please.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. I have a quick question regarding the top of the bank, variance number 5 and 6. So both of them, the minimum requirement setback to top of the bank is 10 meter. You eliminate variance number 6, but the variance number 5 have been modified. I just would like to know, get a clarification. What are the difference between these two variants? Like, because both of them are minimum required setback.
Yes, again, if I can have my support material displayed, I have a very detailed answer for that. There are two sections of the bylaw that are speaking about the setback. The first one, which is the variance I'm keeping under section 5, 10, 40, 76,
yeah,
says that we have to be 10 meters away from the stable top of the slope on a lot.
Okay.
And then the other one that I eliminated, which is under the section 5, 10, 41, is exactly the same thing, except it's mentioning that it has to be away 10 meters from the stable top of the slope that is not on the lot. It's just the difference is the presence of that not word, meaning that we have to measure it from the portion of the line that is not inside of the lot. I'm sure this is the first time this panel is seeing it. So it's the first time I'm proposing it, because we had just recently a similar case that the examiner was in the opinion that we do have to ask for both variances. Therefore, we did ask for both variances. So now when we originally, when we took the measurement from the cabana, which was not meant to be, the other variance kicked in because the cabana also was close to the part of the top of the slope that is outside of the property. But now, being like 8 meters away, the other variance doesn't kick in. It's pretty weird and complicated, very strange, but you know, I have also filed in writing a request to Ms. Natasha Zapola, who is looking at this, because I find it very strange, and she is basically discussing with the team, because that second variance under section 4080, I believe it's not required. It just makes confusion, and it has never been a case, and I'm sure nobody has seen an application asking for both variances, except the other one that I had a couple of months ago, which I luckily got both of the variants. So I'm not sure if this is pretty complicated. I'm hoping that I could explain it well.
Okay, any other questions, members? If not, let's move on to the next speaker noted. And the next speaker noted is Linda and Brian Mitchell. Their area residents. If you can, one of you can speak, and that's if you could state your name and address for the records, please.
Yes, it's Brian and Linda Mitchell. We are located at 113 Burbank Drive in Toronto.
Okay, and if you can share your concerns.
Yes, I just thought that I would say that there are with regard to the variances, we have some concerns, continue to have concerns with items 3, 5, and 6. I'd like to have my wife, Linda, speak to the variance on number 3, which has to do with the overall height of the new house.
All right, on number 3, on the site
I'm sorry,
plan
Linda, can
A01
you just state your name for our records, please?
I'm
I know it's the
sorry,
same
Linda
address.
Mitchell at
Okay.
113 Burbank Drive.
All right, go ahead.
On the site plan of A01, in response to variance number 3, I need to first mention that the existing deck and patio on the east side of our home was unfortunately not included in the drawings. So our raised deck is 13 by 9 feet and the patio extends approximately even with the back wall of 111 Burbank. We've enjoyed natural light on our deck, our patio, and in our home because 111 Burbank is a bungalow. We are only asking for some consideration in reducing the height proposed of 111 Burbank. If you look at the, well, we will be looking at a wall in our backyard that is 26 feet wide and 36 feet high on our east backyard deck and patio, which will significantly reduce the light on our property. This side of our house receives only morning sunlight. On the site plan of 101, you will see that added is a proposed cabana, which we were told will be 16 feet by 14 feet and 12 feet high on the same side of our property. And that will be a combined wall length of 42 feet on the wall facing our east backside yard. And this does seem to be excessive. We have enjoyed the natural beauty of the ravine for more than 36 years and hope that some compromise can be reached to allow light in our home and yard for years to come. One suggestion that we have thought was that instead of a 4-foot raised entry at the front, to have a ground level entry. Therefore, it would reduce the height by 4 feet or reduce some of the ceiling heights or a combination of both. And I'm going to let my husband speak to the next thing that he was going to talk about.
Yes, I'd like to speak a little bit about variance number 5, well, 5 and 6. I note that the architect has made a change to get closer to the requirement of being set back from a swimming pool. We strongly believe that the requested variance poses a potential danger, particularly concerning the placement of the proposed swimming pool within 8 meters, 8.1 meters from the top of bank, while the bylaw, of course, stipulates that it should be 10 meters. That's still a 2-meter difference of consequence. And this is not a minor variance. Granting this request could jeopardize the integrity of the soil composition, potentially leading to a severe landslide. It's important to note that the top of bank area has already experienced significant erosion over the past 35 years. Constructing a pool in this location increases the risk of further erosion, which could result in the pool sliding towards the ravine, adversely impacting both our ravines and property. I'd like to add that if the house is to be approved, due to noise, we would ask that any exterior air conditioning equipment or pool equipment proximate to our existing deck and patio be covered with a jacket and placed on the east side of the new home, just to avoid the noise for us. And finally, I want to mention, in order to preserve the privacy for both parties, again, if the application is approved, we would request that no windows be constructed opposite our deck and patio on the west side of the new building. We understand that they're from the elevations.
I will ask you to
A09
summarize. Your time is almost up.
Yep, A09 is the elevation that we're referring to. There are 3 bathrooms there that will be looking right down on our property.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there now. Thank you so much. Members, do you have any questions of the speakers? We have to stick to the 5-minute rule. And so, Mr. Shakiri, if you can come back out and just share, any thoughts you had on what they've said.
Sure. The issue of the neighbor's patio, that's on the grade. The surveyor, I don't believe they can reach like inside of the neighbor's house to pick up any sort of landscape or patio information. However, the location of the building Mr. and Mrs. Mitchell's house actually is on the survey. We don't have the landscape features, obviously, because the survey cannot go inside. So now, once again, this house is sitting within the same perimeter of the existing house. So currently there is an existing house. Even the corner of the proposed house is located exactly on the corner of the existing house. We did that for several reasons. Most importantly, we did not want to go any further back to the ravine. Just it was to the extent that is acceptable. That is acceptable usually by the ravine property. Sorry, the TRCA. The issue of the height, if staff can kindly display my support material. There are some graphs. I think it's on the page C of my, yes. So again, we had another one of these examples in the morning session, but this one is more obvious, basically. We are asking for that variance, and it has actually adverse effect on the height. So the height of the building is majorly lower by using a flat roof. The person, the neighbor, especially Mr. and Mrs. Mitchell, are going to be benefiting from it. Most of the houses in the area, and I spoke to many other colleagues of mine and have seen many other cases. There are presence of these bulky mansard roofs everywhere in town. So by having that variance, we are eliminating a very bulky mansard roof. And that's why we're asking for the height. So any more than this, if we reduce the height, basically is going to be affecting the interior dimensions of the house, which is having adverse effect on the architecture, and my clients won't be happy about it. But we did what we could in order to bring the mass of the building down. As you can see, that yellow shaded area is the additional building mass in order to get rid of the height variance we are asking here. The cabana was mentioned. The floor of that cabana is sitting, because it's going into the ravine, it's sitting between 2 to 3 meters lower than the neighbor's house. Basically, their patio must be between 2 to 3 meters higher than the floor level of the cabana we're proposing. So it's basically not going to be an obstruction, perhaps not that much visible after the plants and shrubs that are existing. But I'd like to mention that the cabana could be as close as 30 centimeters to the property line, but we left a very, very large side yard for that, maybe around 1.5 or 2 meters. If you look at the site plan, we left a very, very large buffer. With regards to the noise of the air conditioning or any other equipment, obviously, if that is a concern, it has to be a bigger concern for my client who is living in the on this property, will be living on this property, and there. I mean, it's not a minor variance issue. It's like a technical issue, and perhaps they're gonna.
I'll ask you to summarize, please.
Sure. The air conditioning units will be placed on the other side anyways, because the mechanical room is on the other side. I have no further comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Members, do you have any questions of Mr. Shakiri? Yes, Member Attarodi, go ahead, please.
Yes, just another explanation, clarification from Mr. Shakiri regarding one of the neighbors' concern for the 3 windows on elevation on the east side. They refer to drawings A08, and they would like to know if you have any consideration regarding that. They claim that those 3 windows on the design is actually overlook their property. Thank you.
those are only bathroom windows. They're not for any of the rooms. And very small windows, by the way, 2 feet in width. However, for just in case if the privacy is a concern, I'd suggest to attach a condition that we use opaque glass for those 3 windows. So basically, nobody can see through. It's a translucent glass, not transparent.
I think you meant to say opaque, right?
Yes, opaque. Yes.
Yeah.
Would it be possible that staff put the drawing A08 on the screen so we just confirm which 3 windows are you referring to?
Does that help?
It's the other side, page A09. Yes. See those 3 windows almost in the center of the elevation on a vertical. Those 3 windows are in line with the backyard of our neighbor. The other windows are facing the side wall, and the windows on the far left are for the breakfast area, which are on the opposite side of the building. So we just see a projection of that on this elevation. So those 3 windows in the middle that are vertically on top of each other, I think that's those are the ones under discussion. And we can use opaque glass for them.
So are these the window that face the property number 113?
That's
Because
correct. Yes.
Is that the correct? Okay.
Yes, you may ask it from the neighbor, but I think those are directly looking at the backyard of the neighbor. So basically, they are beyond the rearmost wall of the neighbor. Let's put it that way. The other windows to the right are looking at their side wall. And the 2 windows on the left of this drawing, they are, if you look at the floor plan, they are the far side. So they're not even near the property, near the neighbor's property, and they have no exposure. I mean, they have no view of their backyard.
Okay, any other questions, everyone? There being none, we have, again, as you know, 8 variances. Forestry applies. There was that letter of objection you've heard from the debutantes. There is a TRCA deferral request, and you've heard the explanations of the agent. Can I get a motion, please? Okay, if you need a little time to consider that. All right, Member Kidd with a motion.
I'm going to put forward a motion to accept this application, but I'm going to make it subject to the condition that the applicant receive approval from the TRCA authority, and also subject to forestry condition.
Okay, so a motion from Member Kidd with a motion to approve this application subject to forestry and, sorry?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. I forgot to include the amendments that the applicant made at the beginning of the session. I want to
Which is-
revise variance number 5 to read that the proposed setback to top of bank is 8.01 meters, and to delete variance number 6.
Okay, so Member Kidd with a motion to approve this application, subject to forestry, subject to those variance changes that the applicant made here today, and subject to approval from TRCA. Seconded by Member Atterodi.
No, but Madam Chair, can I have a friendly amendment if Mr. Kidd accept that we also had this condition that the three vertical windows on the west elevation being opaque for privacy reason?
Okay, and the windows on the west elevation, the 3 of them are opaque. I'm wondering, Member Kidd, is that something you're willing to accept?
Yes, thanks very much for that. I'd like to include that as well.
Okay, so that's
Okay,
also
thank you. And I will second that motion.
seconded by Member Atterodi with those additional changes. All in favor? This application has been unanimously approved with those changes, as noted. Okay, members, let's move our attention to item number 30, and this is number 88 Felbrigg Avenue. 88 Felbrigg Avenue. I'm just going to pull this up here. This is an application to construct a new dwelling. This application was deferred from November 3rd, 2022 to revise plans, members. There are 8 variances. I believe I have here that TRCA recommends deferral. I'm going to double check that. There is also forestry and a staff report of June 27th asking to refuse variances number 7 and 8. There is 1 letter of objection and 1 letter of support. There is someone here to speak to this as well. Could a Michael Sherzadfar come out, please, and state your name and address for the record?
My name is Michael Sherzadfar. I live at 3 Mary Terrence Court in Markham, Ontario.
Okay, and perhaps if we can provide us with a brief explanation of everything. I'm not sure if you're making changes to your application. You can state that as well, and your timer begins now.
Yeah, I just want to be clear about one thing. I don't believe there is TRCA on our application. Can you clarify that for me?
Yeah, we will, but go ahead and begin, and I will double check.
Sure. So with regards to variances through 1 to 6, this is very prevailing with the characteristics in the neighborhood. I believe they're very minor in nature and what we're seeking for the new development. I do want to bring the committee's attention to variances number 7 and 8 that has been requested by the planning department to be refused. If we look at variance number 7, we are asking for an increase in wall height by 1.13 meters. When we look at this in context with that west wall, it only accounts for 24% of area in relationship to that wall length. So meaning 76% of the proposed wall is within bylaw compliance. With regards to variance 8, like you've heard throughout the day, this is a technical variance, and it's associated with the fact that our basement in relationship to established grade is closer than our relationship to ground level. Therefore, our basement level now has been considered the first level, which is now triggering the building to say that it's a 3-story building. But if you look at it from the context of the design and from the street, it will read like a two-story dwelling and have similar characteristics and appearance to other developments that have happened in the neighborhood. I'll be more than happy to address any questions or concerns with regards to variances 1 through 6 if the members have any questions.
Okay, and just to add, you were correct. The TRCA deferral was not for your application. I mismarked it for the previous application. So there is no TRCA. There is forestry. However, members, do you have any questions? If no questions, let's move on to the next speaker then. There is a Gary Langdon. Gary Langdon, can you state your name and address for our records, please?
Through you, Madam Chair, it appears as Gary has left the hearing. We're trying to get a hold of him again.
Okay, so just let me know in a couple minutes if he was reachable. If not, we're going to move on because this is one of the last ones for the day. Members, do you have any questions so far? Maybe it gives you a couple minutes to examine the application again and reread the letter of objection, the letter of support, as well as I wondered if the agent was making any changes because of the staff report requesting refusal of variance 7 and 8. Did we do that? Am I missing anything? Maybe we can get the agent back out.
Hi, Madam Chair. No,
We're not
we're
making
not
those
requesting a
changes.
change
Okay, just
to
wanted to
variance
confirm.
number 7 and 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that is what
And I
staff is
do wanna-
requesting. Yeah. Have we been able to? Okay, so they've tried contacting several times and they're not able to get this resident in to speak. Likely they may have had a conflicting schedule, so we're sorry that they didn't get a chance to speak, but we do have the letter of objection and letter of support on file that we have read so far. Members, do you have any questions of the agent? If not, can I get a motion on this, noting there's forestry? Yes, member Manning, go ahead.
Through you, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve this application subject to the conditions of forestry. I believe that although planning has objected to number 7, variance 7 and variance 8, I think they are technical variances due to the grading of the property.
Thank you. Motion from member Manning to accept this application or approve this application with conditions of forestry. Is there someone to second that? Seconded by member Kidd. All those in favor? Okay, dissenting? Member Attarodi dissenting. Sir, your application has been approved with those conditions of forestry. Thank you so much. And members, if we could turn you then over to the last item of the evening, that's item number 32. Number 32 is number 20 Green Valley Road. Please note, members, there is no one to speak to this application. This is to construct a one-story addition in order to expand an existing attached garage. Please note that this application was previously deferred on March 9th, 2023, in order to allow the applicant to address or correct existing lot frontage. So pay attention to that. There is one variance only. Forestry was noted. Transportation had a report of July 6th that recommends just approval, but with one condition. And TRCA had no objections. So there's no one to speak to this. Do you require a presentation? Perhaps I'll just get him to say a few things about it. Let's get the agent out, and that's Tomas Goral. Mr. Goral, if you can state your name and address for the record, please. Mr. Goral? I can hear someone whispering, but you can go ahead and speak. Name and address, please. We're having some difficulties hearing you. If you could state it. Okay, we're having a little bit of trouble, so what I might ask you to do is if you could, we're hearing them sort of sounding very like. Perhaps if you can log out and call right back.
Madam Chair, through you, if you'd like, we can reach out directly and just put him on speaker through the phone.
Yes, that would be great. So how about you hang up and we're going to call you directly and we'll get you on the mic on speakerphone. And that is a Tomas Goral.
Okay, give me 1 sec.
Okay, if Mr. Goral, you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, good afternoon, Chair and committee members. My name is Thomas Grell, and I'm the agent for the homeowners at property Green Valley.
Okay, is there anything you'd like to say about this application, knowing that there was a deferral?
No, we're just asking for the one variance of the width of the driveway, which is only at the area where all the garage doors are, because it tapers to the street. So it's not, what we're requesting is not straight through all the way to the property line.
You are aware that there's forestry conditions and one condition of transport as well?
Yes, correct.
All right, that's it. If there's any other questions, members? If there's no questions, can I get, and Mr. Goral, do you have anything else you want to say before we take this into committee? Okay. There being none, members, can I get a motion? Member Attarodi with a motion.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, I would like to put forward a motion to approve this application since it's only one variance and also subjected to urban forestry and also subjected to the transportation conditions 1, 2, and 3. They're mentioned in the report dated July 6, 2023. That's my motion.
Okay, motion from Member Attarodi to approve this application subject to forestry and subject to the July 6 transportation report adopting conditions number 1, 2, and 3. Seconded by Member Kidd. All those in favor? Mr. Goral, your application has been unanimously approved with those conditions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Members, can I get a motion to terminate this hearing? Motion from Member Manning, and I second that. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. Thank you so much for your hard work, and thank you to City Planning for being so quick on their feet with everything. Have a great evening, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a great evening. Bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.